course, we got a jam-packed show up for you this morning. So, getting straight into things on this beautiful Friday morning, we are being joined now by Mr. Rhondall Feelies, the president of the Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. Um, okay, all right. So, good morning and welcome to you, Mr. Fields. How are you?
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, great. So this morning we are discussing about parenting, and because, well, with recent viral videos of some misbehavior in schools, it begs the question, how much or how related is parenting to the deviant behaviors that we are seeing in schools right now?
I think parenting is critical and important. I think the first deterrent to bad behavior or culturing the bad social behavior that we consider or call crime starts at home. We are the first deterrents of criminal behavior. And it doesn't start off as criminal behavior, but the things that influence or culture criminal behavior in a young child. We are the custodians and the guardians of our children. And we sometimes are so more interested in making excuses as parents. A host of them. I am a single mother. I am a single father. I unemployed. I living in a crime hotspot. And we're not saying that these things don't come with challenges, but we're saying also that as a parent, you must understand ultimately that you have a duty and you've been given a duty and actually, in some sense of it, brought a duty upon yourself because we all know how we reproduce. And now you have a mandate upon yourself to do what is right by the child. It is in the child's best interest that you provide the child with the tools and strategies and training that the child needs so that they could survive the peer pressures, they could survive the bad influences out there, they could survive the bad culture that may come from other places, that may be around the environment. You also need to, as I say, stop making excuses and look at persons who may be exposed to the same disadvantages that you are. However, they are finding a way to still raise their children to become productive citizens. You could look for assistance if it's for mentorship for boys. You could look for assistance if it's just guidance from persons who've been in similar situations to you so that they guide you. So parenting plays a critical part, and I said is the first deterrent to crime. Because as I always expound upon, no child is born a criminal. If you go into the hospital on the maternity wards, you will see no criminal ward for children who are going to become criminals automatically. All children are born together. They just go to different locations. They go to different homes. They go to different addresses. And if we look at it from that, at that point, they all start at zero in that room, That maternity room, when you see hundreds of children there after they've been born every night, they start at ground zero. And from that very day, you must understand your mandate as a parent because you're starting to train that child. And some would even say you start training them from the time they were in your belly in the prenatal stages as well.
No, what do you think is contributing to the way that we are parenting, or at least I won't say everybody, but at least some of us are parenting, that our children are exhibiting these deviant behaviors out in schools and even on the streets and so on?
I mean, there's a number of things. We must admit that times have changed. It has become more challenging for even those persons who may have some tools when it comes to parenting or some training or the required moral fiber because we have greater challenges than our parents have. We have the whole development of the whole social media right now, where our children have access to a lot more than we had when it comes to pornography, when it comes to exposure to content all across the globe. We didn't even have that in our days. If you wanted to find out something, it's either you look at a television, you look at an encyclopedia and these kind of things. Now, children are learning a lot more at a faster rate, but it is still our duty as parents to also catch up and also do what is required at a time like this to be able to parent. It will continue to increase. technology will continue to develop, and our parenting style has to continue to develop also. I also think another factor also is children who I think, not children, sorry, parents who I believe are parenting at a position of hurt, coming from a place of hurt. They didn't understand, or possibly they were abused, genuinely abused. And in a bid to not ever be the parent that abused them, they sometimes now blur the lines of parenting and friendship with their children. So their children don't see them as parents. There's no real line of respect with their children. So whereas I always endorse that parents be friendly with their children, your child must know that you are not their friend, comrade, or companion. And they must always have a level or decorum of respect for you, respect for authority, respect for elders. They must be taught these things from home. And if we don't do it, and if they don't even have respect for you in your home as a parent, how can you expect them to have respect for their teachers, respect for the neighbor, respect for just the age the gentleman walking down the street?
Yes.
We've lost that moral ethic that was passed to us. And for a number of reasons, and I identify two of the most, I think it's prevalent and responsible for some of the bad parenting going on. And we just haven't been able to now teach our children the way to have respect for others.
Now, in a situation where there might not be a way to reach out to the parents to maybe help them change the way that they are parenting, or maybe the parents don't exist at all in the situation, what can be done to help correct that behavior that these children are exhibiting before it gets too late?
And you see, our society generally has changed. We've become a more private society, and possibly for some good reasons. Because now, whereas it was the village raising the child, now if you discipline somebody else's child, I know back in my days, if I did something wrong, my neighbor may discipline me, my aunt may discipline me, my teacher had authority to discipline me. But now it's become so confused, and I would think state has to take a part of that responsibility as well. When we talk about the discipline matrix in schools, removing the one that we knew was most popular, corporal punishment, and not putting any substantial replacement. I'm not saying that corporal punishment had to stay, but if you was to remove the main disciplinary measure, you had to put something that would have been substantial. And I mean, we can fool ourselves and lie to ourselves, but we must admit, since its removal and no real replacement of anything substantial, that we're seeing the most violence in school since. A number of us went to school, we had school fights. I remember boys were the primary fighters in school in my days. And we still wouldn't disrespect teachers or authority at that point in time. But now you're seeing girls being the primary fighters in school. You see more videos of girls being circulated fighting than boys.
I mean, that's certainly such a very interesting reality that's it's unfortunate. It's coming up within our society, and it seems as though we're struggling so hard to get this under control. And some of those things may have been exacerbated during the COVID-19 pandemic, when the children were stuck at home, and then the parents were struggling to figure out how do you parent, how do you manage their schoolwork, and so on, with them being at home. And then what can you tell me? I mean, what advice do you give for people who are in those situations and really struggling to get a hold of their children, especially after what they went through in COVID?
I mean, I know we mentioned COVID, but I think we were struggling a long time before that. We were struggling honestly, and it's about being candid and true with what our scenario is. And we were struggling a long time before COVID. I think parents were more frustrated that they had to live with the children that they didn't parent properly. And they were now getting a taste of what the teachers was getting in school for themselves. So that is what was frustrating parents. And if anything, that should have opened a lot of parents' eyes. And I know it did open many a parent eye. And it did put a beacon on their need to spend more time with their children. say more encouraging things to the children. We have become a society where mother works, father works, and neither have time to really invest in your children. I don't know if children even hear their parents saying that they love them. I don't know if children even have experiences of family gatherings together. I don't even know
Mm.
if children have the experiences of that spiritual bond. And I say those things not only for other parents, but even for myself as well. So it's all of us having to introspect and look at the way that we are parenting. Are we developing the right moral values in our children? Are we doing things where we're developing the right spiritual values for those who believe spirituality inculcates or brings about better behavior? Are we doing those things? Do we have family time? Or don't we? And or is it a scenario now? And we have to be honest, we become a society, mommy on the phone, daddy on the phone, the children on the phone, the children on the tablet. That's what we've become, a shell of a family. So really and truly, we haven't really done the necessary work, but we blamed everybody else for our children's bad behavior. Our children are being taught by the PS5, they're being taught by the tablet, when they're being taught by TikTok when they're seeing all these crazy challenges of trying to hurt people, trying to hurt themselves. And we have to be honest that we now have to take stock. And this is where I think state investment must take place. This is why we need the right people to be supported, the right for parenting training in the communal space, the community. You have to attack this from the root and get into the community to attack it. Buying guns and buying vehicles, it makes no sense because we keep cutting off the top cutting off the branches, but we're not dealing with the root cause of the problem. The parent, the family is the best deterrent to crime. Supporting the family in those things, even supporting persons who aren't parents yet, letting them know the duty of what parenting is. It's not an easy task. It's a task that comes with a serious responsibility. It's that task that you are actually taking a whole new life into your care. It is not that easy, and it's better for some people to not have children if you're not ready to do that, or not have as many children that you know that you cannot manage. And we have to have these discussions. Sometimes you get the excuse, I have 8 children, I have 9 children, I have 7 children. But you have to have some kind of management about the way you carry about your life. And I'm not saying that these things will happen, but we need to start to get down with those who are trained into the communities and start influencing those who may have no children and even those who have children already. To better correct the issue that we have, and we have to deal with it from the root cause. We need a proactive approach. Everything we look at when it comes to crime is reactive. It's investigative, which is necessary, and the reactive approach is also necessary. But it must work simultaneously. They must run concurrently. And the same amount of investment that you're invested in the reactive part, you have to have a significant amount in the proactive part. And if we don't do that, we will continue to buy guns, we'll continue to buy vehicles, and they will continue to buy guns, and they will continue to form their gangs and be 6 and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Unless we could get to the root cause of the problem to get them to not want to be involved in a gang, but want to be in a police shoot club, not want to be a part of a killing organization, but want to be a part of an organization that would encourage a community to produce good lives, like the Pathfinders, like the Scouts, like the Cadets, like these institutions where you could change your life. My life, where's my part? My part is still cool, CCC. This is the area that we need to start to beef up. These are the areas that we need to start to put true financial injection into.
Now, as you mentioned that, I mean, we had a situation where, I mean, earlier this week we found out that only $1.5 million was given for the management of all the police youth clubs in Trinidad and Tobago and so on. And the question was asked, you know, these have proven to work in the communities in terms of helping young people refocus the track that they're on and refocus their behaviors and so on. And yet we didn't see that kind of injection or financial injection into those organizations. What are your opinions on this? I mean, do you think that the government is serious about correcting or helping our communities get better?
Every government, same thing. And it is because they are hardened. It is because they do not listen. I have spoken to every government. I've been on committees dealing with social issues with every government. And I believe that I have the right to say no because I've spoken to more than one prime minister on it also, that we do not realize how much social issues impact everything else around us. The human resource is the greatest resource of this planet. And if we do not deal with the things that present themselves as social issues and invest heavily, not only with money, but with time, with passion, and true commitment, nothing is going to change. But you see, the preventive approach to some is unappealing because many a time it takes very long to gather the statistic, sometimes to determine how the crime went down, or if they didn't see it, and all these things. It's always easier to say, well, crime might buy real guns. It's always easier to do it. It's the easier approach to react to crime than to truly put in a proactive, strategic approach that could serve us well in the next 10, 15 years. It may not be now. We're not going to get a knee-jerk reaction like you want when you could say, bringing out our guns and do X, Y, Z. But it is important so that the generation going before, and we're going to lose some of them that have already gone too far. We have to be prepared to have the reactive arm deal with those, bring them into detention if they won't change. But the younger ones coming up, and we are starting to see the age decrease, 15, 14, 13, shooting and killing, being killed as well. And that is because we are not starting to deal with the younger ones. And until we realize the value of injecting meaningful investment and getting serious people who are really serious and are knowledgeable at the ground. Not people who just form up NGO here and form up there, but people that are truly invested on the ground for free if they give them. To go into the ground, work with the communities, give them the support, form these communities. We see that happening in the enterprise community. That was the best test model. It was driven with crime. And then we had the operational approach where the police kept those that were too old to change at bay. And then the community police, together with the NGOs in a multi-sectoral approach, went in. And instead of going in and being the controllers of the area, you went in and started forming those community residents, which are always in the majority and want the best for their communities, into community-based organizations. Many of them that are still in existence in the enterprise area today still. Crown Trace Youth Empowerment, Dash Trace Youth Empowerment, Chrissy Terrace the same. Hoover saw, Brechin Castle saw what was happening in enterprise, didn't have as bad a criminal rate as enterprise. And they adopted it and duplicated the same and formed Brechin Castle Youth Empowerment Committee. So that is what you want to do across the nation. That is what you want to spread. You want to support these groups. I made mention of all these groups here who we have formed up. And I'm pretty sure they have challenges, possibly they need funding from the community development to do things in the community. We've had to go back and lobby for them to get their early childhood centers open that still remain closed. This is how you have to change the community. I have seen the drug lords and the kingpins give respect to these groups after they start empowering the youth, and start telling the younger ones about lying on the block with them, stop lying with them. And it's for two reasons. One, sometimes even the drug man have a conscience. And two, he not realize when it has positive influence inside, he don't even know he could trust them again because they could rat out his operation. So we make it seem a lot harder than it really is, but it is because we are not investing in what is necessary and important. We like to call up boards to have meetings and have a convention and have a conference, and we're not getting down onto the ground. And until we get there, nothing will change. Until we get there and we can talk to the single mothers, we can talk to the fathers, we can talk to the separated parents who have loggerheads and bacchanals so that their children are caught in the center of this broken family issue, and don't listen to either of them and listening to the gangman now because they feel the gangman like love him more than your own mother and father. That is where we have to get down into to truly impact change in our country, and it will work, I guarantee you.
All right, with such wonderful words of wisdom here as we try to better understand the situation that's growing here in our society. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Fields, for being on with us and for giving us your perspective. But viewers, we are not yet done with our program. We've got a lot more coming up for you, so please don't go anywhere. We'll see you after the break.
To a brand new dawning as the passion start to rise.